Hello. According to Palmer et al., 2019, one of the challenges that dual language bilingual education still has is equity and social justice. And according to them, the way in which we can attain equity and social justice is through centering in critical consciousness. Now, interestingly, critical consciousness is something that we had already seen in Henderson and Palmer, where they would say that researchers proposed a fourth goal for dual language bilingual education, which would be the critical or social political consciousness. And then we get the opportunity to see here in Palmer et al. That they are part of those researchers who proposed it. And so we see in Izquierdo's 2022 that Matilde pretty much also mentions that she had to embrace that critical consciousness. But what is critical consciousness? Well, Palmer et al. Say that is pretty much the ability to read the world. But what do they mean by reading the world? It's pretty much having that ability to discern in a very reflective way the differences in power and the privilege that is rooted in social relationships, but not only in others, but also in ourselves. And by doing this, it helps us clarify the purpose of schooling. Like, well, why is that we are teaching? And it helps us interrogate the status quo, um, the it helps us challenge or diminish that um, deficit thinking about minoritized groups. And uh, Palmer et al. Mentioned that there are two elements in critical consciousness. Um, uh, the first of them, it's critical listening. And we see that Matilde in Izquierdo's 2022, um, she is open and she programs these meetings with everyone pretty much that is involved in, in, in the schooling process, and she tries to identify the areas of opportunity and and balance the power, right, and help everyone in a balanced way. And um, what Palmer et al. Say is that this listening, this critical listening, has the purpose of um, building this meaningful and transformative connection, uh, which is what Matilde was able to do uh, between uh, the parents, the teachers, and the people in charge of the district. Um, she was able to unify all of them. Another element in critical consciousness is historicizing schools. And so that is done by uh, localizing the history. Um, like looking, for example, the equity for immigrants and um, following up on the bilingual progress. And for example, one of the elements or one of the questions that Palmer et al. Suggested was um, uh, for us as teachers to ask our students to build on this historicity in schools uh, is why is English the language of power? And I think that is a very good question because they would have to really think about it and look at the history, localize it in the region where there are, um, and that way they would build consciousness and awareness of why, in this case, English would be the language of power, and they would reflect on if they want to continue in the way they are, or if they want to have this critical consciousness, right? And a third element is interrogating the power continuously, and that is something that we saw also in Matilde, and we she pretty much took over um, another superintendent, and uh, they were doing some inappropriate things. So pretty much they were abusing of their power. And what Matilde did was to see all of that and what was affecting, what was being unjust with all of the students um, in an equal way. And so when we question this power, it is for us to make a change. It should push us to make a change and act. Um, and there are several examples like where there's this parent that felt uncomfortable when um, the announcements were done in English and Spanish, so the principal would shift and just do it in English. So we're that is something that is not fair, is unjust, and that has to do with a fourth element, which is embracing or engaging with the discomfort, um, but staying still and interrogating the power continuously. Um, we could also listen to students, listen to the parents, um, because, well, pretty much as that fourth element says, the people that are marginalized are the ones that experience the most discomfort. So, um, by doing this critical analysis, this critical listening and interrogating power, and it takes us with this uh, perception of discomfort, where the people there that are in a dominant position, well, they don't feel any discomfort, but they should also share the burden of this discomfort, because discomfort is the one that pushes us into action, but through critical reflection, um, to make things fair for all. And now, another thing that Palmer et al. Tells us is that we pretty much have to follow the praxis cycle, where we engage in dialogue, which is what Matilde did. She got everyone together, had these recurrent meetings to follow up on progress, clarify questions, listening, having that critical listening, and then uh, changing, right? Getting all of that into action. And the other step in the praxis cycle is the social justice through through a collective action against oppression, which is pretty much what Matilde comes up with this action plan, and assigns, delegates the activities that everyone has to do and that they have to follow up. She creates this team, this dual language action team, something like that. And uh, the third step in the praxis cycle is to rehumanize our relationships, which is pretty much what is done when we make this things fair for all, including the marginalized um, groups, um, or this minoritized group. And the last step there in the praxis cycle is to return again to the reflection and dialogue. So it's a recurrent cycle, um, where you engage in dialogue, you collectively act against oppression, you rehumanize the relationships, and then you go back again to reflect and dialogue, have that dialogue. Um, and we can see that all of this is done by Matilde in Ya Basta from Izquierdo 2022. Yes, thank you.